Bringing jobs to Anderson is a complex problem, and as I said earlier, I've already brought over 300 jobs myself through Star Realty. One of the problems that we have is it's not only bringing jobs, but it's finding people who are willing to come to Anderson with our school system. Our school systems must change. They must change. Doctors, lawyers, and I've experienced with this through Madison County Health Center, they are not willing to come to Anderson with our school systems. Our SAT scores have got to rise. Our graduation rates have got to rise. The only way we can do this is to create a covenant school system. In other words, we have to pair with Yale University and Anderson school systems. We'll have to use the internet for additional training. We'll have to use Skype and whatever other IT tools we can to get our school systems up where they should be. Thank you.
And then the last response to this question, Mr. Stapleton.
I think everyone's hit all around the issue. The fact is, government doesn't create jobs. Government allows for an atmosphere that allows business to create jobs. Entrepreneurship is not taught in our schools. As Mr. Melton alluded to, we have some problems in our school system, and I think that in our private schools, public schools, and universities, that we should teach entrepreneurship. People that start businesses in Anderson or in a community have a tendency to stay here and build here. In fact, the Herald Bulletin just had an article in it today referencing an entrepreneur that started a small tea company that graduates this year from AU. That's the type of business that we need. If we keep looking to hit the home run every time and bring in 300, 500 jobs, we're going to be left exactly like we are now. We need to start building for the small business to be able to come here, support small business. That's what causes continuing growth in a community.
Okay, folks, hey, I would remind you, if you haven't yet, please check your cell phone and make sure that it's on silent. Thank you. The third question of the five, and Mr. Stapleton will be the first to respond. It's actually more of a statement to respond to than a question. Assess Anderson's image and what you would do to address it.
The first thing that we have to do is everyone that's right here in this room today needs to talk good about Anderson. You know, when you go out and you talk to your friends and your family and people that live in the neighborhood, they talk bad about Anderson. They tell people that our schools are bad. They don't tell everyone all the good things that we have to offer, such as the Fine Arts Center, Paramount Theater, Anderson University. The Colts are coming back, have been back to Anderson, are going to continue to come back. We have Flagship. These are all pluses. We should be promoting them, and government needs to also, and when I say government, I'm talking about specifically the mayor's office, needs to create a bridge with the school board. Instead of an adversarial relationship as there have been for many, many years, we need to build a bridge so that we can work with them and we can dispel that old image that Anderson has a bad school, and we can rebuild the whole community. Go out and say something good about Anderson like Councilman Papella does.
Mr. Adcock, assess Anderson's image and what you would do to address it.
I too think that we need to start talking highly of our city. We have so much to offer. We have, I believe we have 5 golf courses in a town of our size. We have beautiful trails. We have so much to offer, and we just need to get our kids staying here in town instead of leaving for Indianapolis or Chicago or wherever else they go.
Mr. Smith?
Assess the image of Anderson. You know, Anderson made great strides. I want to remind you something. And if you think back about 5-6 years ago, think about the feeling that was on the ground in Anderson, Indiana. There were baskets of flowers hanging from the light poles on the bridges. The parks were well kept. The streets were clean and freshly paved. That's the internal image of Anderson and our own perception and how we feel about each other in our own community. The outside image is how Anderson is working professionally and what type of staff and interactions we're having with the rest of the community. Forbes magazine in 2007 named Anderson, Indiana in their top 100 best of small metropolitan areas. And the Indiana Chamber of Commerce named Indiana, Anderson, Indiana, their Indiana Chamber of Commerce Community of the Year. That's an image. And that represents a lot of hard work, not only by the city, but also by Anderson University and others.
Mr. McClish.
The image of Anderson has to be brought back to where we call it hometown. I wasn't born and raised here. I was born and raised in Marion, but I have made Anderson my new hometown. And I'm proud of Anderson. I've traveled a lot, and when I mention Anderson, the people have been here, this is what's going for. Because we used to be a GM town. I try and sell with Hoosier Park. Different things we've got going here. We've got to change the image back to Anderson of being our hometown. As mayor, I'll work to get that image back up. Instead of being called a bedroom town or anything like that, we've got to change the image of Anderson back to Anderson, a hometown we're proud to live in.
And Mr. Melton, your turn.
Again, as I say, there's one thing that has to happen first. Our school systems have to improve. How many times do I have to tell you they have to improve? I was at a fair not too long ago. The young lady was exuberant because she graduated from the Anderson school system with a 4.0. I got on the phone to my daughter, who's a professor down south, and I said, need you to help homegirl here get a good scholarship. It fell silent. Dad, their SAT scores were not high enough. They could be a 4-point in Anderson school system, but yet their parents will have to pay out an additional $4,000 or $5,000 for their going to college, when if they come up through a good school system with good SAT scores, their parents could have avoided all of this expense. You got to get moving. If you want to work on this, Kim, would you stand up? Kim from my campaign is working on this. Give him your name and phone number before you go.
One of the rules of the forum is that there are no props allowed, but I don't think Kim's really a prop, I guess. All right, question number 4, and Mr. Melton will be the first to respond. And again, it's not a question as much as a statement to respond to. Discuss 2 things you would do differently than the current administration. Discuss 2 things you would do differently than the current administration. Mr. Melton?
Well, first of all, I would implement a cost-saving and suggestion program. This cost-saving and suggestion program would first be started within the city. City employees would be paid for their good cost savings and their suggestions and their ideas. In addition to that, I would also start a volunteer group of talented professionals in the community who would work and give their service to the city on a voluntary basis. We would pay for their expenses, but we would do this to help turn the city around. I'd take some of them to Illinois and bring in jobs from Illinois. I'd take some of them to Chicago, to Detroit, to Cleveland. There are struggling businesses everywhere that would gladly want to come to Anderson, especially if we had a good school system. Thank you.
Mr. Stapleton, 2 things you would do differently